I learned so much about you and what you do in your business and all the avenues that I didn't realize you were doing all of those things at the same time. So as impressed as I was before, I'm doubly so now. So, but I want to encourage anyone else, if they want to jump in with any comments or questions, to go right ahead.
Well, no one can go to bed, go to sleepy after hearing a presentation like that, LT. I learned a lot, and I know your story, but you went into depth this time, into some details, and generated new questions that I have for you. But I just want to tell you that that was a really terrific presentation, and you unveiled superpowers. And I feel like, oh my goodness, I think I can have superpowers. I can too. So thank you for that encouragement.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. So see, where do I start? Well, one of the things, I could go chronologically. I tend to, but I'm not. What is my kryptonite? My kryptonite, what is mine? I need to identify what that is so that I can recognize it when it's trying to knock me off my feet. So I don't get thrown off the goal. And I can call it what it is and take it captive and bring it down and keep moving forward boldly. You know, I talk like this when I'm around LT. See, you bring this out. So that's just one of the things. I have others, but I want to give others a chance to respond to you.
Well, I've got a question I see here in the chat that I'll ask. It says, podcast versus book versus course. You have a lot of things. Is there a magic order to branding and launching these?
Now there is, because I have multiple coaches. One of my coaches is a branding coach, and he has put a leash on me. And we laugh because I'm such a squirrel. I'm like, squirrel, that looks fun, let's go do it. And my branding coach is like, bring it back, LT, let's have a talk, bring it back. And so he's also a writer, and he's helping me with my messaging. And so I have to have a circle of 5 people around me who are like, bring it back, girl, let's talk. So what I will just tell you right now, what gives me the most joy. That's why I will start, because I'm 45 and I can finally control my life. I resigned from teaching March 1st. And so I fill my days with whatever the hell I want to do. So that's where I want to start, with joy. I love seeing people who have a book idea, but don't know how to get it out. And they want to get it out, but they're scared. Like me, I love to see them go through those stages of being scared and excited and mad and frustrated. And then all of a sudden it's done. And then we have this book launch party on Zoom, and their grandkids are there crying because grandma just wrote a book, and she's the first one in the family to ever write a book. And my picture's in grandma's book. That's what gives me joy. I'm a history teacher by trade, so I'm making history. I'm teaching people how to create history. And so that gives me joy. That also makes me the most money. So although I love books, I don't actively push my books because the book is $20, right? My courses are 10 times that. So I do what gives me the most joy, and that pays me the most money. And then I can do, other stuff too after that. But yeah, my priority in my branding should be for the self-publishing of books, right? And I'm getting better at that, because my branding coach is like, when we run ads, what do you want to promote? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm always promoting something different. This week I'm speaking, and he's like, girl. I am like his defiant client, because I'm a free spirit. I get up and I do what I want to do. I post what I want to post. And he's like, okay, we have to have a method behind this. And so I'm getting structured and the brand is expanding beyond me. And so I'm getting on message. But I love to just work with people, just help people and talk to people. I love listening to stories. I have an 80-year-old father-in-law, and I keep telling him, I say, dude, you need to hire me to write your story because you keep telling me the same stories over to Vietnam, Korea. Like, he's got all these, and I'm like, we got to put it in a book. So that's what brings me joy. I could do that all day.
I can tell, like, the passion it just comes right out of you. And I can only imagine when you actually sit down with somebody to get them going, like Stephanie was saying, you probably just light a fire, you know? So I can't imagine anyone working with you and having not, you know, double or triple their expectations or their output or both. But
Yeah.
I had a follow-up question. You were talking about, you have this, I think you said marketing coach. So when did you start doing funnels, and how did you figure out online marketing, either for your books or your course or both?
So when I first started in 2017, and I just had one book, life was easier for me because I only had one book, and it was my life story. And I was a turtle in a shell as a teacher. I literally would go to work like this, and I would work, and I wouldn't come out of my classroom unless there was a fire drill or something, because I've always been really laser focused. So I would go to work, come home, take care of kids, do the laundry, do all that stuff, and then press repeat the next day. And I really wasn't on Facebook. People can't believe this. I wasn't on Facebook in 2017. I wasn't on YouTube. I was afraid of social media. I was afraid. I thought people were going to stalk me. I thought people were going to come show up at my house. Like, I had all these ideas about why I should not open myself up. So when I shared my book and my story came out, I just said, let me just go on Facebook and let me just see what's going on. All my friends were on Facebook. They're like, it's about time. Where you been, girl? The water's fine. And it was like explosive because I was like, people from high school, people from my work, people from my neighborhood were like, you wrote a book? What? And they were like, I bought your book and you went through all that? When are you going to write your next book? So when they told me to write my next book, then I wrote the next book. So I didn't start creating things. I don't create things if people don't ask for them. That's been my biggest takeaway from all the trainings and webinars I've been to, you know, on marketing and all that. Don't create stuff before there's a demand. Otherwise, you just have a whole bunch. So my first book, it was very simple. I had a launch party at my house, and I just put something on Facebook because people weren't used to me being on Facebook. And so they were excited and they were curious, and some of them were nosy. And they showed up and they bought the book. I was selling it for 15 and they were like, take the 20. And I was like, oh, I guess people make money with this. I was so naive. I'm like, okay. So then we had the party, and then all of a sudden I was like, what should I do next? Like, I got this one, I had the lunch party, that was fun. And then somebody was like, you probably need to have a website and you probably need to have an email list. And I was like, why? Yes. And then so I started studying. That was 2017. I didn't know anything. I needed to study. I needed to go to Younivercity. I needed to hire coaches. I needed to go to webinars and start paying attention, buying programs. That's when I started investing into these big programs. And I'm like, oh, wow. The more I learn, the more I know I don't know. There's so much I don't know. Like, wow. So I really, the funnels and the marketing and all that stuff, I just kind of like go with what my coaches tell me and what I've read and what I see. I never really had a system for myself. I just would show up with the enthusiasm and just pray everything would work out. That doesn't always work out right. So I invest in people who know what they're doing because I write. I'm not all that great at marketing. Well, people think I am because I'm everywhere, but I just started doing it because it felt natural. Like if I want my story to be told, and I know how important this is, because someone else told me this is a very important book. And I said, really? Why? She said, because you're talking about stuff that people are afraid to talk about. And so this is an important book. I didn't know that until someone told me that. So when she said that to me, I said, oh, everyone needs to learn about my story because it's an important story. And then the more I told it, the more people would come to me and say, thank you for sharing that. I've been dealing with that. One of those issues I talk about being molested. And people think, well, 1 out of every 4 women has been molested. Well, I've had so many men come to me and say, that happened to me. I just want you to know that. And they tell me, and I'm like, why are you telling me? You got to go to therapy. But it's like the message is so deep, being abused. My mom was physically abused. And I witnessed her being beat by my father-in-law. And that's why I'm so protective of my mom now, because I witnessed her go through that as a young woman. And we were so helpless and we were homeless for a while because when she decided to run away, we had nowhere to go. And he found us because we were on a military base and, the military base is closed and everybody knows everybody. So really, it was just like, I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't have a marketing strategy. I still don't really. I just share. I talk, I share. I love people. I just have fun with what I do. And it just seems to work. Thank God. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question.
I have a question if it's okay. So, like your story, your first book, people saw it, read it, came back, identified with it. It worked. So why not stick with that story?
I know.
Did it define you or you feared that it would confine you?
Yeah. That's a good question. Because when I talk to people, the conversation always does circle back around to my roots. So when I get a chance to really sit down and have a conversation with someone, I do let them know let me tell you where I've been. Because if you knew where I've been, you would really celebrate where I am right now. This is really a miracle. This is really a celebration because I literally used to cry myself to sleep at night. Literally. And my husband would look in the closet and find me and be like, what's wrong with you? And I would say, I don't know. I just don't feel good. I'm upset. I don't know why. And so that's always going to be my story. But for my books, I get so inspired to write. And so I can't stop it. Because I wrote that first story and that was awesome. And I processed some emotions through that. But then I had this 18-year-old girl that was getting on my nerves. And I was trying to deal with her and I didn't know. I was like, Lord, please help me. I might strangle her. And the Lord said, write a book. It's okay. Just write about it. And I've always been okay with writing about what I felt. So I felt frustrated as a mom, and I say that in the book. I feel frustrated and vulnerable because she's a teenager. She's 18 and she's testing me. And I'm learning that some of the things that I said to her were not true. And I'm having to grapple with the facade that I've created, and she's starting to penetrate that uniform that I have on and that mask that I have on. She's starting to, some of these things, you know, one of the things is, I'll be honest, she was asking me about relationships. She was asking me about dating, and she's a beautiful young woman. She's now, she was so frustrated because she couldn't find the right person to take her to the prom, and there's all these different things. Now she's thinking that the first guy that I was ever with was her daddy, right? Of course she's thinking this. I had to just break down and say, okay, girlfriend, let me just have a seat. Let me tell you how this thing really goes. And it goes a little something like this. Hit it. Yeah, right? So she's like, really? I'm like, yes. I was pregnant at 15. I repeated the cycle. I never told anyone I had an abortion. That's why you don't have an older brother, because I chose to have an abortion because I was going to college, and that wasn't in the college plan. And I explained that to her, and she was like, whoa. So the second book was like a relationship healing between me and my daughter. I didn't know what else to do but write about it. So that's why I couldn't just stop with the first book.
True. So LT, I mean, you are able to just sit there and talk about these traumatic things. People live for decades in fear, shame, and in a cave. But you can sit here and just say it was an abortion. That's just what it was. That's the truth. Or you
Yep.
said earlier, you said
What it was.
bipolar. People don't talk about that kind of stuff. What gives you that courage?
No.
And do you think everybody should be as courageous?
It's a personal journey. I had to just let it go because 2007 was when I got the diagnosis. And so I didn't tell anybody. I just went back to work like whatever, you know. I got my pills, I got my doctor's appointments, and I still really didn't take it that seriously. It's still, I started researching it, and I started learning, oh, wow, there's a ton of actors and actresses that are diagnosed with bipolar. Oh my gosh. There's so many people in history that were probably bipolar based on their characteristics. I started reading and studying and just becoming a student and learning that, oh, okay. Because first I tried to deny it. No, that's not me. My kids will tell you that's me. My husband will tell you that's me. I had to say, that's me. That's what makes me special. That's what makes me be able to get up and do things on an impulse, right? It's just, it is what it is. So I had to stop being embarrassed and ashamed and just say, this is what it is. So my kids know if I'm having a moment, they'll be like, Mom, you having a moment. They don't say bipolar moment anymore because I get mad if they say, oh, you're having a bipolar. The mother's bipolar like you, Mom. Like they would say stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh, no. But it is what it is. And we have to stop sugarcoating and just call it what it is. If your mama's having a bipolar episode, it is what it is. Get her into therapy, support her. My kids come to me and say, Mom, you need water. You getting dehydrated? They look at me and they see, oh, Mom, you've been working. You've been in front of the computer all day, Mom. You need this. When you call in for help and you let people know, I'm vulnerable, I have this issue, I need y'all to help me. That's what they do. They'll step up. But if they don't know what it is and you calling it something else, nobody can help you. So for me, I'm 45. I need all the help I can get. Because I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm not as curvaceous as I used to be. Like I got a lot more flab around more than I used to have. So I'm not afraid to just be like, it is what it is. But there's still people in bondage, especially people of color. There's so many people in bondage who are like, oh no, I'm not depressed. I have family members sit in their room and don't come out for weeks. And people say, are you depressed? Are you okay? No, I'm not depressed. I'm just tired. I need you to leave me alone. Stay out of my face. Really? So I'm out of that. I'm out of that. I'm not under any type of fear. I have no fear.
I'm really glad, and I want to echo what Stephanie was saying, how open and honest you are about everything. And I think you're right. There's a lot of things that people don't talk about, and I think you're also right that sharing stories, it's such a great way to keep people's history alive, but also such a great way to share. And really that's how, I mean, back in the Greek and Roman days, you know, it was all sitting around and talking, and they would just teach via story, and you would kind of remember the stories. I had a professor in college say, if I teach you a lesson, you'll forget it. But if I tell you a story, you'll remember the story, which will accidentally cause you to learn the lesson. So I think that's great. I had a couple questions about some of these things you're talking about, especially for the books. And the first one was, if you're you know, trying to create something, how do you move from like, oh, I'm so excited to write this book, to kind of marketing it and getting it out without losing the enthusiasm?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's a perfect, I have a perfect example, because it's like me this year. Again, I've made it a goal to do a full marathon. I did that in 2018, and my mom has done 15 marathons. She does one like every year for a fundraiser for cancer. But okay, so I start out with all this enthusiasm. Oh, I'm gonna do a marathon, you know, and then, you know, day 3, when you figure out that you have to train, that's when you're like, oh. So I tell people, when you're starting a book, you have to tell me why you're doing this first. That's the first thing. Your why should make you want to cry. I heard somebody say that. Your why should make you want to cry. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing anything that you do? Why are you going to work every day? You know, why? What's your why behind it? When you develop the why behind it, then you will be able to continue to move whenever you feel like it's not worth it. I'll give you an example. For me, I officially started my company a year ago. So I was coaching already for a couple of years, but I officially put the paperwork in, got the business license, did all the things a year ago. So I've been in business for 1 year. Why do I run my business? I run this company so that I can create schools around the world. That's beyond me. I've been in schools for 18 years, well, since I was 3. So I've been teaching for 18 years, but I've been in school since I was 3. So that's 42 years. I see when schools work. I see when they don't. I know what needs to be done. I want to have schools around the world, right? I want people to learn how to tell their story in a dignified manner. You know, there's a way to tell a story that gives it dignity, especially when it's a sensitive topic. So I want people to learn the skill of storytelling. I want people to have so many things that I want to give people. And so when I get up and I think about running my company, my why is to serve other people. And so I never get tired and I never get angry about running my business, because it's for the service of other people. And as a teacher, you know this, your students drive you. When you get that little note that says, thank you, you're my favorite teacher, that makes your heart melt and you cry. It's so easy as a teacher to think of our why. They're the faces of our little kids. So when you start writing a book, you need to see the little faces of the people that are going to have it in their hands. and they're going to say, this book changed my life, right? You have to have that in your mind before you even start writing anything. Because if you just think you're going to write something and people are going to automatically get it, no. Like, I've learned now how to sell and market my books, and I've learned how to teach people to sell and market. And it starts, the very first thing starts with the outline, with the thesis and the hook. That's the first thing I teach. Let's get out the outline, and I have it in my course. Let's do the thesis. Let's do the hook. Let's work through the body. Let's map out the chapters. Let's do the conclusion. Let's figure this thing out so that when your readers read it, it makes sense. And when you feel like squirrel, like the day that your car breaks down and you're supposed to write a chapter, but you can't because you're distracted, you go back to the outline because it has your hook, it has your thesis, it has your chapters, and you have to be faithful to that outline because I have OCD, I have all kinds of stuff. And so for me, I have had to create structures for me to exist, because if I don't have a structure, I'm going to be flying all over the world. So that's what you need for your book. You need a why.
So I see, Clifford, you got your hand up. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to give some love to Latasha. Amazing presentation, as always. You always show up, and I appreciate you for it. And I gotta say,
thank you for the love. I love the love.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the big thing, you showing up authentically and telling people, it's like almost deeper than your why, it's your who. It's who you are. It's you standing up saying, I got all of these things, I got all of these pieces, and I'm here not only to say my story, but shout my story out and allow others to show up confidently. And so when we talk about the tall cup of confidence and seeing Stephanie rise above, Stephanie, respect and love. I know I don't know you yet, but I love the energy. Yeah, keep bringing it, keep dropping that heat, and keep dropping the mic.
Thank you. Woo! Thank you, Clifford.
Clifford's the most motivational person I've ever met.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you here. I had a follow-up question. So they're asking about the counterpoint to keeping the enthusiasm for the marketing. And they said, so what if you love the detail work, but you struggle with creating in the first place? So how do you do that?
Okay, wait, let me make sure I understand the question. So you struggle with what do you mean you struggle with the creative work? Like with actually writing?
Yeah, it says, if someone loves the detail but struggles with the creation, how do you create when you get bogged down?
Kind of like writer's block.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I get a lot of people that we get on a call and they're like, well, I was writing something, but then I don't know, I got stuck or whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like an actor or an actress, if they go and they're doing a movie and somebody in that area like is getting on their nerves and the energy's bad, it affects the performance. So if there's something going on, like I lived under a lot of stressful situations, living in a house with a lot of fighting. So my creative energy at some point as a child was stifled. Like there was a year where I got E's and F's, which was really weird for me because I'm used to getting at least C's or B's, right? And there was one year I just got D's and F's. Something was happening. I don't remember everything that was happening in the household, but it was about 6th grade when I could not focus. I couldn't focus, and I was like 12. My sister and brother are like 4 years younger, 5 years younger, and I'm responsible for taking care of them. And I just didn't do well in school. It was a struggle. So this is the same thing with you. If you're trying to write a book and you have yourself on a deadline, like I suggest, you're on a timeline, you might get so stressed out that life takes over and you just can't finish. So I tell my authors, give yourself the grace and the space to just call it a day on this project. Just close it and just say, this is not for this project. And I'm just going to go do it, next year. It's okay. It's all right, because everything happens in the right timing anyway. So when you feel yourself getting flustered with the creative part, the creative juices aren't flowing, you have to look around. You have to do, here's another ABC. You have to do your atmosphere check. What's the atmosphere like around you? I do a lot of my best work in my car because there's no dogs and there's no kids. So I am highly effective right here in my car. But as soon as I go in the house and sit at that kitchen table, no work getting done. So I got to make sure all my work is done. Hey, Dolores, all my work has to be done before I go in the house, because once I get into the house, because I work from home, when I get in the house, the kids are taking over, the dogs are barking, and I got to be right there with the kids, right? When they go to bed, hey, Dolores, can you mute yourself thank you. When they go to bed, then I go into my closet, and it's a really closed, small space. And that's where I'm able to really focus, laser focus, and do writing and read and really plug into my creative energy. You have to be in the right atmosphere, right? And then breathing is important. And then self-control is important. This is what I teach in my course. Your atmosphere, your breathing, and your self-control. ABC. You have to be aware of what makes it work for you and what doesn't make it work for you. There's smells in the house. Like, we got dogs, so there's smells. As soon as I come in contact with a smell, I'm angry. And so that impacts my ability to be able to flow, right? So I take walks outside where I can hear the birds. And I put myself in an environment where I live with minimal distractions. There's no traffic. I live near dairy farms. There's no people for miles. You have to like really come in to see me. You have to like plan a week ahead because you can't find me. And I planned it that way because I'm a creative being and I'm really highly sensitive to energy. And so if somebody comes around with the wrong energy, I'm like, oh no, you got to go, honey. You got to go. And so you have to know that about yourself. If you're stuck with the creative part, something in your atmosphere is not working. Someone around you. And I've had conversations with people who have come to me and said, this is what I want to do. And I'm like, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. I'll let you know. It's not the right time, because what you need to write this book, you need to commit, like the marathon training that Dolores has got me on. You need to commit. You need to do a certain number of pages a day. You need to do a certain number of words a day. You need to have certain chapters done by a certain time, right? You need to be committed, and you have to constantly work on it. Even if you're just, maybe you're reading for your book, that counts. Maybe you're not writing today, but you're reading something that is going to be important and relevant for your book. You're doing research maybe one day. Maybe you're interviewing an expert for your book. There's lots of different things that you could be doing for your book, But one of the things that I put on my application, I ask people before you work with me, how many hours a week do you have to commit to your book? Most people will say 1 hour a week, 2 hour a week. I'll say, that's not enough, honey. That's not enough. You're gonna have to commit at least 45 minutes to an hour a day. That's 7 hours a week. And you can't take days off, because once the momentum starts going, it's going. And then when it stops, it stops. So you have to stay in the flow. Stay in the flow. So I hope that answers it. It seems like I took the long way for that one.
Well, there was a lot of really good stuff in there. I love that you had another ABC. And yeah, I think you're right. You know, I work with a lot of people that do film stuff, and creation's creation, you know? And if you, like you said, you take the break, you know, it's like anything else, you know, if you stop running, you take a day off, and then it's a week off, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, I haven't run since last year, you know? So yeah, I totally agree. Strike while the iron's hot, create the habit, and then it's just like, you know, you gotta exercise your body, you gotta exercise your creativity, you gotta make some progress. And it's funny too, because I think sometimes it's a little bit of fake it till you make it. You're like, okay, just sit down and you're gonna write. And then next thing you know, it's like, it's just flowing. But if you don't really get yourself in the chair or the car or the closet, wherever it may be, then you're not gonna get that going. So I had another question here, but I also wanted to open it up. I know we had a couple other people join in. If anybody has any comments or any questions that you wanted to ask, feel free to just unmute yourself and dive in.
I love that other ABC, actually. That's very, very cool. And I also love the fact that you make it difficult for people to get a hold of you because you know yourself very well. That's one thing I'm actually learning on my journey, because I like giving a lot of energy to people. I like building them up. But at the same time, there's a consequence when you do the buildup with other people, especially if you're creative as well. So I really took that tidbit in. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'll give everyone a minute if they want to think of something to say. So the last question I have in the chat here is, I think I have a story to tell, but it doesn't seem like I can get people to want to listen. How do I improve my story or position myself better so that I can have an audience?
Great question. I love it. I think when you first start, just write one page and allow someone else to read it, and open yourself up to constructive criticism. And that is the hardest thing to do, because we don't want to hear anything negative about what we write, right? So that's one thing you have to do immediately. You have to get over yourself, and you have to write just one page and give it to someone. It could be a coworker, it could be your mom, it could be your husband, it could be one of your kids. Oh, they're gonna give you some real good feedback. Give it to someone. And you know what? Don't worry about it, because you can change it. That's why we have spell check, and we have delete, and we have undo. What if we had an undo button in real life? What would you undo? A lot. So don't be afraid when you write a page. Just let someone read it, because you can go back and make the changes. And being a self-publisher, this is a little secret. Lean in. People don't think about this. When you self-publish your own work, Amazon or wherever you want to put it, you can go back and upload a new manuscript anytime you want. When I found that out, I was like, oh, breath of fresh air. If I made a mistake and someone caught it, I can go back. I own it. I can go back and change the manuscript, upload a new one. You know how many times I've done that? Many times, because you're not perfect. And even if you have the best editors, you know, they have eyeballs and they're not always perfect. So at some point, your work is going to be perfect enough for you to do it. Right? Just get the first one done, and then everything else you will see your superpowers just go woo, like Popeye the Sailor Man. When he had that spinach, boop, all of a sudden his biceps went boom. That's what happens when you get that first book done. You have the spinach. People give you're going to get a little bit of, you know, negative feedback, but so what? You're going to get more positive than negative. So do it.
I'm wearing a 95 Nissan right now.
I think we got some background, Nicole. Were you going to say
We just
something?
went on our first anniversary when
I
I
think that
cruised
noise
to
is coming
Mexico.
from Matt.
Right, thank you.
That was pretty cool.
So we're gonna wrap up, but I want to thank everyone for hopping on, but also want to give them opportunity if they have any last questions or comments to jump in. But first, Latasha, I want to make sure you get a spotlight. So please let us know if you have anything coming up you want us to know about, if you have any place you want people to go to, or if there's a social media or someplace you want them to connect or follow you. Please let us know all that.
Definitely. So if you're just coming into my world, the first thing you want to do is go to my YouTube channel, LT the Buddy Teacher, and you just want to watch the videos and just see, what I'm all about, how I teach and everything. The next thing is if you're not a part of my Facebook community, it's free 99. Okay, so you definitely want to go and get into that, because I have people that are in my circle. Some of them are here tonight.
You
We're self-published authors, and we support each other because we know it's difficult for Dolores, we can hear noise. Oh, okay. There's a note in the chat. Okay. But anyway, Dolores, can you mute yourself?
I am unmuted.
Can you mute yourself so I can finish
Oh,
talking?
I'm sorry.
She's like, I am unmuted. If you're not in my Facebook community, you've got to get in there, because it's a supportive environment of people who love each other and want to see each other win. And so we're all about self-promotion. It's not spamming. It's okay to promote yourself and be visible. So that's 2021 publishing for ACEs, which is authors, coaches, educators, and speakers. That is a free Facebook group that you can join tonight. And then I'm also creating a beta course, and this is open for the next probably 2 or 3 days, because I already have 2 people that are in and I'm only taking 10. If you are curious, you want to write a book, I would highly recommend you go to my website, which is myfirstbook.org. Put in your email, put in your name, and I'll contact you with information about the beta course that's coming up in a couple weeks. Right now, I'm offering 50% off to anyone who contacts me today and says, I want to be a part of the beta course. I want to know what that is. You walk in the door with nothing. You walk out the door with a manuscript that's edited, formatted, put into the book template, and you're using the outline. So literally, we're getting your book done, and you can take that manuscript and do whatever you want to do with it after you leave. You can give it to an audio to produce an audiobook. You could send it to a film producer, because it's high quality. I teach you how to write in a way that people will pay attention. And so that beta course is open right now, and it's 50% off for anybody who wants to get their book done this summer. Like, time is a ticking. So I want to offer that to you guys because you're here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And yes, please, everyone, jump on that I believe you said that there's 10 spots and 2 are already taken, right? So there's only 8 left.
So there's 8 spots.
We got 7 people on the call, so everybody jump. You can fight each other for those last couple spots. All right, so myfirstbook.org and your YouTube channel is LT the Bunny Teacher. What's the name of the Facebook group again?
It's 2021 Publishing for ACEs, which is authors, coaches, educators, and speakers.
Got it, thank you. So last call, does anyone want to jump in with any comments or questions for Latasha before we wrap up for the evening?
Keep being
I
amazing.
just
and
wanted to
shining
say
bright.
if anyone, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, Dolores. Yeah, I was just saying, keep being amazing and shining bright.
Thank you, Clifford.
And I just wanted to add that it is a very rewarding experience. If you decide that you do want to write a book, please fully commit yourself. You'll be glad that you did. I am a 2-time publishing author, and I took the course, and I'm very pleased with it. She stands by LT, sticks by you 100% all the way through until you're done. Even when you feel like giving up, she don't let you give up. So it's definitely worth it.
That's
Thank you.
a great endorsement.
Thank you, Dolores.
You're welcome.
And I'd just like to say thank you so much tonight. LT, is always a joy to be in your company. And I'm still going to write my book, but I don't give up because I think about you. And I see all that you've been through. I
Yep.
see parallels. And I don't give up because I know I can. I see you doing it. And I thank you for that. And Shane, thanks for your show, your program. I appreciate it. And hi, Dolores, and good night, everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you for those kind
Hello,
words, Stephanie.
nice to see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Latasha, I want to thank you for coming on and educating all of us about writing, telling our stories, and I encourage everyone to connect with you. You're, well, my mom would call you a firecracker, and I agree with everybody here. Your energy is infectious, and I think you're going to help a lot of people tell their story. And I want to thank you for getting so many of the people to come on the call. It was great to meet with them and connect with them. And I encourage you to join us. If you missed it at the beginning, we have these calls on the first and third Thursday of every month. And there's always a different speaker who is some kind of expert. And being on the call live is a great way, like you heard tonight, to get a chance to talk to them one-on-one and get your questions answered. So we're always looking for new experts, and we're always looking for other people to join us live on the call. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the next call, which will be the beginning of May. And Latasha, if you can hang out for a few minutes after we end the call, thank you so much. And thank you again for all the interaction. It's always exciting when we get new people on the call because we get a really good discussion going. So thank you all for being here, and good night.
You're welcome. Good night.
Thank you, guys.